I think that Johnson is going to be that riser, Zach, because people are going to watch the film. They're going to get to stuff and they're going to say, man, I just can't find a reason not to like this guy.
My way too early hot take on the draft this year. Before we continue, I wanted to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, BETUS. They have much more than just football, basketball, baseball, hockey, tennis, even surfing. I mean, you name it, BETUS has it. But we all really like football around here, and they have NFL futures like the Super Bowl winner, conference winners, division winners, playoff specials, all of those fun future odds. They have you covered. The possibilities really are endless with BETUS. If you sign up today, you'll get a 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two. So go check out BETUS, where the game begins. A big topic of discussion for the Cowboys all offseason long and pretty much most of the season up to this point has been about their running back room and other teams' running back rooms. We've seen so much talk about Derrick Henry, Saquon, other backs playing extremely well with their teams, while Dallas has Rico Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott, Deuce Vaughn, Hunter Lipke. They need a playmaker at the position. Now, a lot of people think that Dallas should take somebody that is a game changer, which means draft capital. Now, I'm torn on how much I value the running back position. The question I have for you is, how much value do you put into the running back position? You know, we kind of seen it jostle back and forth with how much teams put into the running back position. So what's your take on that?
You know, for me, Zach, I think that we're seeing offense as we know it change back over to maybe not 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, run the ball every down type football, but you need to have some type of a running game. You look at the teams with the most success. You look at Jaden Daniels this year. He has Brian Robinson. He has Austin Eckler. You look at Detroit, and they're one of the premier examples and extreme examples of running back by committee or two-headed monster when they signed David Montgomery and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, traded up for Jahmyr Gibbs the same year. Didn't care what Twitter GMs thought, didn't care what Twitter draft analysts thought, because Twitter draft analysts, everybody said the running back position doesn't matter. You can get those guys in the 6th round. Look at what the Denver Broncos did for so many years, blah, 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 blah. No, they wanted a Corvette, as I call it, and that's what they got. They went out and got them a luxury car in Jahmyr Gibbs, and he paid off. I'd never forget watching him as a rookie against Kansas City, and it paid off immediately. I value the running back position. I would take one every year, the same way that Cowboys fans, the same way like the Packers take quarterbacks. I would take a back. I think we have to understand what the running back is. It's a safety valve for the quarterback. It's, hey, you want to settle a quarterback down, hand the ball off. You want to get the quarterback on rhythm, hey, throw a swing to your running back, make somebody miss. We don't have that. Like, Rico Dowdle's nice. He doesn't scare anybody. Hunter Lupke's nice. He doesn't scare anybody. You know, Deuce Vaughn isn't an NFL player. Zeke is washed. Dalvin Cook is washed. Like, that's what you have, and it's going to be a struggle bus all year because your running back room, you went, and me and Jeff Kavanaugh were talking, you went so far left of drafting Zeke in the 1st round to going with undrafted guys and 6th rounders that there was no medium, there was no middle ground. So I think that for me, the value is high. It's been high. I've been on record. I wanted Jahmyr Gibbs actually over Bijan Robinson. That's a fact. I've been that high on him, and that's been documented on this channel. So for me, the running back value and how I value it is very high, Zach.
Kind of something we've seen with the Cowboys too, and you mentioned them going with undrafted free agents and stuff this year at the running back position. 2016, they took Ezekiel Elliott. And 2016 was about the time that the running backs don't matter conversation started.
Yes.
It just feels like they've been kind of behind the curve, because the year that they just completely neglect running back is also the year that Saquon Barkley goes for $16 million to Philadelphia. He's averaging 5.9 yards a carry. Derrick Henry at 30 years old goes for $8 million a year for 2 years. He's having the best running back season in the NFL. Kind of talked about that with Dallas. They're kind of behind the curve. So maybe it is time to take that premier back. And this year, it's Ashton Jeanty. So we're going to list out 5 running back prospects, guys that we consider to kind of be in that top echelon of backs this year. So let's start with Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, 5'9", 215, broken tackle machine, somebody that can get those tough yards, but also create explosive big plays. What do you think about Jeanty and how he might fit in this Cowboys team?
Well, everybody's saying with Jeanty, oh, wait till he plays some competition. Oh, he hasn't played anybody. And I challenge people to really go watch his film. I mean, he almost beat Oregon by himself. Go watch the Oregon film. I mean, he was outstanding in that game. He didn't go down on first contact. His line didn't really give him much. Oregon has a really good defense, and he ran all over those guys. One of the more interesting things about Jeanty is him being so low to the ground. It works for him. Great vision. He's going to be a 4.4 guy at the combine. So, like, with his legs and being so choppy, you don't expect guys like that to be that fast, but he is. He can run away from you. He can catch the ball. He breaks tackles. And when I actually get to his all-22, I really show that his line doesn't block well. Like, he's not getting gaping holes. He's not playing behind this dynamic Power 5 line. I mean, it's Boise State. They don't have a bunch of guys going to the league. He's just doing a lot with less, and he's just a special athlete. He's a Florida kid. Reminds me a lot of Travis Hunter. He's just laid back. I mean, he likes to string, likes to do like simple kid stuff. He's just a really good running back. And Ashton Jeanty, I kind of started the hype train on Twitter when it came to Jeanty, and a lot of people kind of like picked on. And I mean, people knew about the guy, but I mean, he's outstanding. Zach, his numbers look fake. Even when he has a bad game, he's in the hundreds as far as rushing yardage. So Ashton Jeanty, clear and far away the number 1 running back in this class, and I'm 100% sure that it'll stay that way.
You mentioned the crazy numbers. They literally look like video game numbers. I mean, he's already up to 1,500 yards this year, 8 yards per attempt. His elusive rating is 260 on PFF. Last year, the best back in the class was Marshawn Lloyd, I believe, had 177.
It's a great stat.
To put that into perspective. Anything you start getting over like the 125 number, you're looking good. He's all the way at 260.2, which is just absolutely insane. So let's go on to our next running back, Omarion Hampton, UNC Chapel Hill back. He's 6'1", 220, more of a big bruiser type body style. He's strong, powerful legs that push defenders downfield, but kind of like Jeanty, I think he has big play ability. And from the 2023 games that I watched, I saw a guy that kind of had a little bit of an extra gear in the open field, and that's good given his size towards playing in the NFL.
Yeah, I think his size is really, what's the word I want to say? Intriguing, and will be intriguing to front offices. With Jeanty, I'm just going to be honest, he's going to look small to certain GMs when they look at him, and that'll scare teams away. That's why there will be teams that'll say, nah, I'm out in the first round. I can get a Hampton. I can get I can go Hampton. I can go some of the other backs in this class, maybe a Caleb Johnson, TreVeyon Henderson, just because of their build. And one thing about Hampton, if you watch the Florida State game, he looks as a guy that's finishing runs, and then he runs away from people. So you're like, what is this guy? Who is this guy? Has that long stride, has some catch ability, Zach. They throw him a lot of screens at North Carolina. Quarterback play isn't great, so they're trying to figure their offense out the best way they can. And if you cut on the Florida State game, obviously Florida State's not a great gauge because their season is what it is this year, but they still have guys on that defense. And he's running through arm tackles. He's running away from guys. There was a touchdown that got called back. He's still running away from guys. So when you look at Hampton, I would say the thing that I like about his game is his finish. Like, every time he runs the ball, you're going to feel him. But then he'll also run away from you. So you make what you wanted that, but I think he's a premier back as well. Can definitely be an RB1 in the NFL.
I really like the bruiser mentality of, like you said, wearing on guys as the game goes on. But I think a lot of what this Cowboys team needs is that dynamic player, the guy that can get, rush for more than 12 yards as the longest rush of the season. They need that. Guys that can break tackles, break 1 or 2 tackles, and still be able to run away from guys.
Yes.
Hampton, like Jeanty, gives you some of that. So let's talk about another guy that is dynamic, the ability to see a crease and create explosive plays, and that's Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State. What do you think about him as a player?
This is your typical pair with another back type back. I think that Judkins is your home run, catch the ball, maybe 10 carries a game. And honestly, if that's under the Mike McCarthy regime, that's how he wants to play, or whoever is going to be the next OC in Dallas, he's fine for that. And you could draft him in the second round and you feel like you got a steal. I mean, this guy reminds me of Alvin Kamara in more ways than one. He's not going to run the ball all game. You don't want him having 30 carries a game. Him and TreVeyon Henderson have been a nice 1-2 punch. But the thing that's so interesting about Judkins is the way that he can catch the ball. Ohio State will throw him wheel routes. They'll throw him the ball down the field, Zach. They throw him and get him matched up on linebackers, and he does a great job mixing up linebackers, catching the ball, running the ball, getting to the edge, really doing whatever it takes to be like that dynamic space player. That's how I look at Judkins. He transferred in from Ole Miss. And the guy, man, he's just elusive. He's just electric. I wouldn't say he's quite as electric as Jeanty, but like he can play. He can make some guys miss. I mean, he was an SEC freshman of the year multiple times, and this was in the SEC. His quick feet, his cutting ability. He can be a workhorse back. I just don't think that's the best way to use him at the next level. I think that's one of those guys where we said earlier, Zach, if you wanted to go second round, fifth round, I'm okay, right? If you wanted 2 types of backs in your scheme to say we're going to cover everything, you can. I don't think that he's a do-it-all back, but I think that if you give him an opportunity and you have the right play caller, he can be special. Judkins can be special.
My completely way too early hot take on the draft this year is Judkins is going to be the Gibbs pick of 2025. He'll be the guy everybody's saying will go, early 2. And then he'll be the guy that shocks everybody just because of that big playability. But let's talk about a guy that I think will also climb up draft boards. And that's Caleb Johnson from Iowa.
Yes.
I told you earlier when I watched him run, he is a guy that just looks like an NFL running back. The vision, the patience, the body style. He just looks like he's made to play NFL football. And I know that some people have him, just inside the top 100. Others have him, pretty high on their running backs list. What do you think about Caleb Johnson and his fit in Dallas?
Caleb Johnson, to me, is one of those guys that people don't know about right now. Man, you got to watch this guy. He really does it all. He's faster than he looks on film. I can honestly say that he catches the ball, he blocks well, he has amazing contact balance. He really does remind me of Le'Veon Bell because he gets everything that's blocked. And I think that's a lost art in the NFL. There's times when I'm watching Rico run where it's blocked a certain way. He just doesn't know how to get that extra yard. He doesn't know how to use defenders' leverage against him. Rico is not great at that. If there's space and he can make somebody miss, cool. He doesn't have great vision. He's not going to power through somebody consistently. That's not Rico's game. But he has great pop, more like an RB2, right? Yep. When you look at Caleb Johnson, he's going to be that riser for me. The same way that you feel about Judkins, I think that Johnson is going to be that riser, Zach, because people are going to watch the film. They're going to get to stuff, and they're going to say, man, I just can't find a reason not to like this guy. And you watch the Wisconsin game, and that's the perfect example. Now, Wisconsin isn't some juggernaut this year. I feel like I've said that about a couple of the teams that these guys have played. But, even the Iowa State game, I watched that game. Throw the ball, run, touchdown. But these are all, he is their offense at Iowa State. At Iowa. Because, Iowa isn't some offensive juggernaut. You're not going to Iowa to get receivers. It's Big Ten country. They're going to run the ball. They have good tight ends. And they're not going to be ashamed of telling you that they want to run the ball, right, Zach? So if you're going to be a running back at Iowa, you better be tough. You better know your stuff. And he is he's a low, Zach. I texted you about him. I said, man, watch this kid. And so I want our fans to kind of have an early gauge on him because he really is special, Zach.
I like Caleb Johnson as well. And to get to our last running back that shares the backfield with Quinshon Judkins is TreVeyon Henderson from Ohio State as well. Tell me a little bit about him and what you've seen on film.
Henderson is a guy who could have came out last year and decided to go back, was a little injured, and he's been, to me, impressive. Like, I look at him as a poor man's Ashton Jeanty. He's not quite as explosive, but you go watch that Penn State, man. That Penn State game, Zach, made every run that he needed to make. He blocks amazing. And Dallas is known to go back to the well of where they got a kid from. That's just what they do. They love Zeke. They went to Ohio State to get him. There's going to be scouts on the ground that are going to say, I talked to Ryan Day. He reminds me of Zeke because of this. And I don't think he is the special player that Zeke was at Ohio State, because Zeke at Ohio State, people forget just how good Zeke was. I mean, he beat Alabama by himself. He was just amazing. Yeah, he was insane. But TreVeyon Henderson is really good, Zach. Like, he went back this year and he helped his stock. I see an early 2, late 1. If somebody wants to be on the same time that we're on, where it's like Jahmyr Gibbs light, Bijan Robinson light. Because this is what I want to make sure that people understand. These are just 5 names, right? I mean, we could rattle off a bunch of names. Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal, Nick Singleton, Penn State kid, Taj Brooks, the list goes on. These are guys we haven't even gotten to, Zach, and we will throughout the process, because I'm pretty sure you'll let these people know what we got going on. But when you talk about Henderson, all of these guys, they're built a certain way. I mean, TreVeyon Henderson, 210, right? You look at Caleb Johnson, you say he looks like an NFL running back. Zach, you're not lying. He's 225. You see what I'm saying? Like, Omarion Hampton, 220, right? Jeanty, 215. These are big guys. Last year's class, kind of small, Bucky Irving types. And Bucky Irving's actually having a really good year. Yep. But that type. But now you're getting into bruisers, big guys. But they're also really good running backs. As far as skill set with Henderson, man, catches the ball really, really well, runs the ball really, really well. Another guy who gets everything that's blocked.
I think if Dallas wants to find a running back, find a guy that could be their difference maker in the backfield, revamp their running back room that they've kind of let slide over the past few years, this is the time to do it. There's so many, there's a bunch of running backs, especially at the top. And like you mentioned, there's a whole bunch of other names that we haven't even gotten to that are, good backs in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. So that's our five running backs. Thank you to Foots. Foots is always on top of it with the draft. I mean, he started way before the beginning of this season, before the Cowboys season was completely lost. But for the 2025 draft, me and Foots are working on a draft guide. Now, this guide is going to be your go-to resource for draft day. If you're into fantasy, that'll help too, to know who's the best guy coming out of college, all that stuff. So we're going to have more information on that soon. We're just excited to get it announced, get to working on it, and get it to you guys as soon as possible. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to both of our channels, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, Zach. Much love to you, brother.